Q Review Print Speaking to the Blind, celebrating 40 years of audio newspaper production. Welcome to this week's edition of the Herald Scotland podcast, recorded at the Bishop Briggs Media Centre by our amazing volunteers. You can get in touch with us via Facebook, Twitter or Instagram using @CuneReview, that is @symbol CUEANDREVIEW. You can also contact us directly by emailing information@cunereview.com. That is INFORMATION @symbol CUEANDREVIEW.com, or by calling 0141 772 3976. That's 0141 772 3976.
The Herald Scotland, on Wednesday the 15th of May 2024. From the news section. Italian coffee giant Lavazza acquires Scottish family firm. This article was written by Brian Donnelly and is being read by me, Corey. An Italian coffee giant has acquired a Scottish family business with 6 decades of experience in the vending field. The corporate team from national law firm Freeths said it advised Lavazza Professional UK Limited on its acquisition of the entire issued share capital of Stirlingshire Vending Scotland Limited, trading as SV247 Vending. Lavazza Professional is the industry-leading vending and coffee machine arm of Luigi Lavera's SPA, an Italian manufacturer of coffee products. SV247 is described as a multi-award-winning family business based in Alloa, with over 60 years' experience across the vending industry. It provides vending and office coffee services, including fully managed micro markets. The Freeths legal team was led by corporate partner Francis Dalton, supported by associate Shivani Feke. Mr. Dalton said it was great to work with Lavazza on this strategic acquisition to strengthen its presence in the market as a national vending service provider. Jai Popat of Lavazza said, "We really enjoyed working with Francis and Shivani. With patience and good humour, they provided us with smart, practical advice and helped us get the deal done in good time. We are looking forward to working with them again." SV247 said, "The team at Lavazza Professional take pride in high service standards and reflect the same values as SV247 has always done. For this reason, it was a logical step for us to transition the operation to Lavazza Professional when the opportunity arose. The business was acquired for an undisclosed sum." That article was from the Herald Scotland. It was from the news section. It was written by Brian Donnelly, and it was read by me, Corey. The Herald Scotland, on Wednesday the 15th of May 2024. Super Grand star Gudrun Ure dies aged 98. This article was written by Jodie Harrison and is being read by me, Corey. Gudrun Ure, the Scottish star of the 1980s children's show Supergran, has died aged 98. Miss Ure won legions of fans for her portrayal of the granny who gained superpowers series after being struck by a magic ray in the ITV show. Supergran ran from 1985 through to 1987 and made Miss Ure a household name. Her death was confirmed by her niece, Kate McNeil. As well as Supergran, Miss Ure appeared in a number of stage productions, radio plays and other TV shows, including starring opposite Orson Welles in the 1951 stage version of Shakespeare's Othello, directed by the Hollywood star. Her niece remembered her as a really kind person who was happy to be recognised for her most famous role. She added that she last saw her aunt in December. The actress had enjoyed hearing that there were plans to reboot the TV show as a new film, and recalled the likes of George Best appearing on the programme. Ure was born on the 12th of March 1926 in the Campsie area to Alan and Lily Ure. She was the oldest of 3 children and had outlived her 2 brothers. Although she enjoyed a lengthy career, her most famous role came aged 59, when she took on the part of Super Gran. Based on a series of books written by Forrest Wilson, the show was about Granny Smith and her superpowered adventures. She then uses her powers to protect the residents of Chiselton from a series of villains, most notably Scottish actor Ian Cuthbertson's scheming Scunner Campbell. The programme was hugely popular and was sold abroad to around 60 other countries. In 1985, it won an International Emmy Award in the Children and Young People category. It also saw a host of diverse guests appear, including Billy Connolly, who also sang the programme's theme tune, comedian Spike Milligan, former Doctor Who Patrick Thornton, and strongman champion Jeff Capes. Her niece told the BBC, "She had a very memorable voice. I remember my husband was watching Casualty one night and I went, 'That's Gudrun,' as soon as I heard the voice." Ure was married for over 40 years to John Ramsay, who died in 2008. The couple had a stepson, Gordon. She lived in London and died at her home. That article was from the Herald Scotland. It was from the news section. It was written by Jodie Harrison, and it was read by me, Corey. The Herald Scotland, on Wednesday the 15th of May 2024. From the news section. Sweeney urged to throw weight behind Tory drug recovery bill. This article was written by Josh Carmichael and is being read by me, Corey. Scotland's First Minister has been urged back legislative proposals to ensure those at death's door from drug and alcohol addiction can access recovery. The Right to Addiction Recovery Bill, introduced by Scottish Tory leader Douglas Ross, is set to be officially launched in Holyrood today. If passed, it gives addicts access to appropriate treatment as soon as practicable and within 3 weeks at most. Ahead of the Members' Bill launch, Mr Ross has urged John Sweeney to throw the weight of his government behind the proposals to avoid additional delays in bringing forward the legislation. The Tory leader said the bill could be an absolute game changer. Official data from the National Records of Scotland showed 1,051 people died from drugs misuse in 2022, and 1,276 from alcohol in the same year. Police Scotland figures published in March this year estimated that 1,197 drug-related deaths in 2023. The bill was developed in conjunction with frontline experts, including Anne-Marie Ward, Chief Executive of the UK charity Faces and Voices of Recovery, Favour. Its financial memorandum suggests additional investment of between £28.5 million and £38 million annually would be required to help fund residential rehabilitation spots and other appropriate treatments. Asked whether he thought the First Minister could back the bill, Mr Ross said, "I'm very hopeful. It is not partisan. It's a bill that seeks to save lives. We know that Scotland has an appalling record for drug and alcohol deaths, and it's not just the worst in the UK, but the worst anywhere in Europe, so something must be done." He said the bill on its own was not a silver bullet. Mr Ross said, "Far too many lives have been lost during the long process of introducing the Members' Bill." He added, "This crisis is our national shame, and our most vulnerable cannot continue to see those in charge fail to take the necessary and decisive action required to save lives." As this bill launches today, in the spirit of him saying he wants to work across the chamber, I urge John Sweeney to throw his weight behind it, so it can become law as soon as possible. Miss Ward said, "Scotland cannot keep failing the most vulnerable people in society. The drug death crisis has hit the poorest communities the hardest. Until the Scottish Parliament overhauls the treatment system, more families will be left broken from the pain of losing a loved one. The Right to Recovery Bill would help people at death's door get the treatment they need and deserve. I hope every single politician who wants to help vulnerable people in Scotland will engage with the bill and consider supporting it." The bill will undergo scrutiny from an allocated lead committee, with experts likely to give evidence in Holyrood. Its general principles will then be debated and voted on in the Scottish Parliament, with amendments put forward at Stage 2 before a final vote which could see it become law. Drug and Alcohol Minister Christina McKelvey said the government will take time to consider the proposals. She said, "We're already taking a holistic, human rights-based approach where problematic drug use is treated as a health, not a criminal matter. Our £250 million national mission, informed by people with lived and living experience, aims to get people into the treatment and recovery that is right for them, while supporting them to address their other social and economic needs. We are also supporting the national collaborative process to develop a Charter of Rights for people affected by substance use through engagement with communities across Scotland. The most recent benchmarking report highlighted substantial progress in the rollout of our life-saving medication-assisted treatment, MAT, standards which aim to improve access and choice of treatment. We'll continue to drive this, as well as expanding access to residential services and community-based support, mental health services and housing. This approach reflects increasing concerns about increasingly unpredictable and toxic drug supply, which potentially impacts a much wider group of people using drugs." That article was from the Herald Scotland. It was from the news section. It was written by Josh Carmichael, and it was read by me, Corey. The Herald Scotland, on Wednesday the 15th of May 2024. From the news section. Thales plant in Glasgow shut down in Palestine protest. This article was written by Gabriel McKay and is being read by me, Corey. Activists have blocked the entrance to a Glasgow factory which produces parts for Israeli drones, as they protest against the ongoing war in the Gaza Strip. Demonstrators blocked entrances to Thales Govan site in Glasgow from early morning on Wednesday, May 15th, as they call for a halt in the UK's arms exports to Israel, an immediate ceasefire, and an end to what they describe as the genocide in Gaza. The action comes on the day that Palestinians commemorate the Nakba, meaning catastrophe, the violent displacement of Palestinian people in the 1948 war, which established the State of Israel. More than 80% of the mostly Arab Palestinian population were expelled or fled from what would become Israel, with at least 15,000 killed. Following the surrender of a former fishing village, Tantura, in 1948, between 40 and 200 villagers were massacred. The Nakba has been described by several historians as an example of ethnic cleansing. As part of the ongoing war in the Gaza Strip, Israel is preparing a ground invasion of Rafah, where over 1 million people have been displaced. In protest, a group of local activists have shut down the Thales plant in Govan, which is involved in producing the Watchkeeper drone with Israeli defence company Elbit Systems. UK Foreign Secretary David Cameron earlier this week ruled out halting arms sales to Israel. Daniel, 47, a care worker, said, "Every day since October we have seen the Israeli occupying forces murder and torture people in the most grotesque and horrific ways. We've seen babies take their last breaths before incubators ran out, children carrying their dead siblings in plastic bags, men dying of lack of basic life-sustaining medication, women giving birth with no healthcare or anaesthesia. The Israeli government knows there is no safe place in Gaza, even as they tell people to move again. My conscience demands that I do whatever it takes to stop the chain of killing that starts here in my hometown." Jamie, 32, who works at a Scottish university, said, "Scotland is a huge part of the UK's bloody links to Israel. Our leaders in Holyrood and Westminster aren't taking action. In fact, they are actively contributing to these horrors. That's why we are doing the embargo ourselves, bringing Scottish solidarity to the people of Palestine who have suffered unaccountable horrors and humiliation. All our eyes are on Rafah right now, but this horror did not start with Rafah. It's been decades of bloody occupation. We can do our bit today to hit the profits of those who value money over human life and dignity." Justine, 39, an education worker and trade unionist from Glasgow, said, "Today, on Nakba Day, we are thinking of all those Palestinians since 1948 whose lives have been extinguished and maimed by the occupation and the current genocide. We think of the many thousands who have died in prison and those who are still there today without trial or due process." Thales has been contacted for comment. A Police Scotland spokesperson said, around 5:05 a.m. on Wednesday the 15th of May 2024, police were called to a report of a demonstration within the grounds of a business premises on Linthouse Road, Govan, Glasgow. Officers remain at the scene. That article was from the Herald Scotland. It was from the news section. It was written by Gabriel McKay, and it was read by me, Corey.
This is from the Herald Scotland of Wednesday, the 15th of May 2024, from the Voices section. Artificial intelligence could change our lives for the better. It is virtually impossible to get through the working week now without a news story emerging which warns of the challenges, perils, or outright threat of artificial intelligence. AI has become a byword for a confusing world in which only a privileged few profess to understand, and for a near future in which everyday tasks, jobs, and people will be replaced with nameless, faceless, autonomous intelligence to the detriment of society. Amid the scare stories and dystopian visions, it is easy to forget two things. Firstly, that digital technology is not new and has been with us for a very long time. And secondly, that the advances in technology we are now witnessing offer previously undreamt of solutions to shared problems, from medical science to the existential threat of climate change. It is now the best part of half a century since the first user-friendly home computer started to appear. At that time, the advent of digital technology in the family home prompted a wave of angst and fear for the future, not entirely dissimilar to that we are living through with regards to AI. Digital pioneer Ken Olsen was quoted in 1977 saying that there is no reason for any individual to have a computer in his home. Such was the misunderstanding of how the future would unravel. Some were extremely wary of the arrival of previously unknown technology in their living rooms and home offices. The tech angst of earlier generations was such that, bizarre as it may seem now, in the early 1980s, one Scottish MP went as far as to introduce a bill to the House of Commons entitled Control of Space Invaders and Other Electronic Games. So great was the fear of such technology corrupting the minds of youth. Amid the moral panic, which clearly gripped some back then, few could have glimpsed the extent to which the computing power and rapidly accelerating technological sophistication, which some were so afraid of, would, within a few short decades, bring benefits of a kind which now seem utterly commonplace. How many would, in the mid-1980s, for example, have predicted that by the early decades of the new century, we would all have access to devices which effectively carry every word ever committed to print, while also serving as cameras, video recorders, maps, phones, and much more besides, all sitting literally in the palm of our hands. The standard mobile phone now has over 4 million times the memory and well over 100,000 times the processing speed of the Apollo 11 guidance computer. But the mystique of new technology still puts many people off, rather than enthusing and engaging them with the possibilities at hand. The reality is that every one of us uses and takes advantage of digital technology every day, whether it is booking a holiday, flight or train ticket, locating our exact position in an unfamiliar city, road or countryside, or simply communicating with friends and family near and far. Amid the blizzard of technological buzzwords and phrases, AI, virtual reality, the Internet of Things, metaverse, blockchain, and many more, it is hard for many to grasp what these really mean and therefore the potential benefits that are available. The tendency is to switch off and disengage, despite almost every aspect of our daily life being dependent upon digital technology in one shape or another. Concepts can appear to be overcomplicated or beyond our understanding, and yet the benefits, once demonstrated, are often understood immediately. The very best digital technologies are those which just work, and therefore do not need an in-depth technical understanding. This is what could be called the wow moment, or the magic of digital. Apple has built its brand on the user experience. Where the technology is easy to use, society rapidly embraces it. When it goes wrong, the complaints queue very quickly forms. Ask any IT department. My own interests stem from early days of home computing. My career in aerospace, turbo machinery, and energy has provided a diverse range of experiences where digital technology has been embraced, but also where it has been actively discouraged. My focus, and that of my team at the Net Zero Technology Centre, is to capture the rapid advances in digital technology to help deliver a net zero industrial future. NZTC is a not-for-profit organization focused on this global mission, assisting developers of prospective new technological applications by conducting field trials, commercializing concepts, and accelerating growth in the drive to a carbon-free future. As current political developments demonstrate very clearly, governments are finding it increasingly difficult to meet the climate change reduction targets they have set. Harnessing of technology offers previously unknown and untapped solutions to reaching that net zero goal. However, making technology solutions that industry can readily adopt continues to be a challenge. The rise of automation and digitalization is frequently viewed as a negative because of its capacity to replace jobs. One of the key challenges to be embraced in that respect is not to focus on displacement. Every job will be influenced by or changed by new advances, whether technological or societal. What we do with the time that has been created for us by automation is the real question, and this is often overlooked and undervalued. AI and its associated applications need not and will not lead to a world without work, but it will change the way we work. Governments, business, and academia can, by working together, drive forward that digital revolution, which Scotland has the capacity to be at the forefront of. So, while we should always be wary of the challenges and risks posed by new digital technology, we cannot and must not allow that to frighten us from embracing the very real, tangible, and transformational opportunities it promises. All digital technologies are based on human processes. They are just faster, repeatable, and able to be performed at a scale and complexity that is often like magic. This article was written by Graham Booth, who is head of Digital Technology, Net Zero Technology Centre. He is speaking at 10 o'clock tomorrow at the All Energy Conference in Glasgow. His session, bringing the digital and energy ecosystems together.
This is from the Herald Scotland on Thursday the 16th of May 2024, from the news section. Glasgow protesters hit out at treatment by Police Scotland. This article is written by Gabriel Mackay. Protesters who shut down a factory in Glasgow have accused Police Scotland of causing fear and panic with their tactics in breaking the picket after several arrests were made. On Wednesday morning, a group of activists blockaded the entrance to the Thales plant in Govan, which manufactures components used in the Watchkeeper drone as part of a partnership with Israeli defense company Elbit Systems. On the day Palestinians commemorate the Nakba, or catastrophe, the protesters called for a halt in the UK's arms exports to Israel, an immediate ceasefire and an end to what they described as the genocide in Gaza. The demonstration was attended by Police Scotland, who confirmed several arrests had been made. However, the force has been accused of a disproportionate response to a peaceful protest. One told the Herald, "Police broke up one of the pickets and made arrests. The police should be there to maintain public order, but what they did was incite fear and panic. What we went through today, while upsetting and unnecessary, was nothing compared to what people in Gaza have been facing every day for over 7 months, and the unquantifiable suffering of Palestinians under occupation for 75 years. Stop the chain of killing. Free Palestine." A Police Scotland spokesperson said, around 5:05 a.m. on Wednesday the 15th of May 2024, police were called to a report of a demonstration within the grounds of a business premises on Linthouse Road, Govan, Glasgow. Officers are in attendance and a number of arrests have been made. Explaining the reason for the action, a protester said, "We came here today to shut down the site and ensure no work is done today. This is because Thales is directly involved in producing the Watchkeeper drone, developed with Israeli arms company Elbit Systems, and based on the Hermes 450 UAV, an armed drone that is used to kill Palestinian men, women and children. Through this contract, Thales profits from Israel's genocidal campaign in Palestine. During a court case in 2014, Thales admitted that parts manufactured on this site were sold to the Israeli Defense Forces and battle-tested against Palestinians living under occupation and siege as well as civilians in Iraq, Afghanistan and British maritime borders. That article was written by Gabriel Mackay. This is from the Herald Scotland on Thursday the 16th of May 2024 from the news section. Green quits party amid criticism over stance on college cuts. This article is written by Kathleen Nutt. A leading Scottish Greens activist has quit the party, citing concerns over the leadership's position on college cuts. Ryan Donaghy, a former convener of the party's LGBT wing, the Rainbow Greens, made the announcements on ex-Twitter earlier today. Mr Donaghy, a former party clerk and a member of its Elections and Campaigns Committee, was critical of the party's leadership over cuts to the college sector both when Patrick Harvey and Lorna Slater were inside government and since leaving the administration last month, after First Minister Humza Yousaf ended the Butte House Agreement. I have made the exceptionally difficult decision to end my membership of the Scottish Greens, he said. The lack of voice from the party while the SNP government decimate the further education sector in Scotland has been a very, very bitter pill to swallow. Our current leadership have done nothing in government or in the weeks since being removed to reassure me that they have what it takes to rebuild the trust needed in the education sector. He added, the fundamental mistreatment of ordinary volunteers like me, who have given hundreds of hours of our own time to ensuring that we are a strong voice for progressive Scots, is also intolerable. I hope that my resignation as a senior member of the party will act as a wake-up call to our leaders and underline the crisis in confidence that many members have in the direction we are currently being taken in. I wish everyone well for the future. The college sector has been hit by a wave of strike action in recent weeks. Last month, the Herald revealed that almost a quarter of college workforce is at risk as funding cuts rock the sector. According to figures from the Scottish Funding Council, which oversees the distribution of Scottish Government funding and the financial health of Scotland's colleges, 2,387 full-time equivalent positions, amounting to 21% of the workforce, could be cut by 2026. In addition, the SFC reported that Scotland's colleges have already spent a combined £6.7 million on staff restructuring efforts in 2021 to 2022. The SFC estimates that a restructuring will cost colleges a further £21.4 million by the end of 2023 to 2024 academic year. Savings are expected to come through various methods, from voluntary severance, expected to account for 1,103 full-time equivalents, to compulsory redundancies, 154 full-time equivalents. The SFC report stated that staff costs account for 70% of college spending and are the main focus of savings as colleges try to balance their budgets in the current fiscal environment. This is likely to cause further conflict, the SFC reported. Given the experience to date of industrial relations within the sector, this level of staff reduction is likely to result in widespread industrial action, it said. Last weekend, the Herald on Sunday revealed that the party's membership had increased by 374 since the end of BHA on April 25th, with the total membership now standing around 7,500. The Scottish Greens have been approached for comment. That article was written by Kathleen Nutt. This is from the Herald Scotland on Thursday the 16th of May 2024 from the news section. 6 prisons at red status as population hits near record high. This exclusive article is written by Andrew Learmonth. Scotland's prison population is reaching critical levels and could soon require inmates to be released early to free up space. The Herald understands that there are 8,353 people currently incarcerated, the second highest total ever recorded, and the highest since the start of the COVID pandemic. In January, Theresa Medhurst, the SPS chief executive, told the BBC that the tipping point would be when the population reached around 8,500. A Scottish Prison Service spokesperson said the number had increased rapidly in the past few weeks in a way which was not anticipated. Justice Secretary Angela Constance is due to update Parliament on the state of the country's prisons. It is understood that 6 of the SPS's 15 prisons are currently registering red risk status. Earlier this month, Ms Medhurst told Holyrood's Public Audit Committee that this meant they were still managing, but conditions would deteriorate very quickly if further demands were placed on them, and that they would then not be able to cope. The prison boss told the MSPs that the service was dealing with a range of competing and complex demands, caused by our having a population that is now made up of a higher amount of serious organised crime gangs and people with increased social care needs and changing risk profiles. Overcrowding in prisons south of the border has already led to the UK government taking emergency measures to release some criminals early. They have also triggered Operation Early Dawn, which sees the start of some trials delayed, some suspects released on bail rather than being sent to prison. A Scottish Prison Service spokesperson told the Herald, "Our population, which was already very high and extremely complex, has increased rapidly in the past few weeks, in a way which was not anticipated. This is putting significant pressure on our staff, our establishments, and those in our care. The complexity is driven by the high numbers of individuals who may require to be accommodated separately, for example, because they are on remand, have links to serious and organised crime, or due to their offending history, all of which exacerbates the challenges faced. It is further illustrated by the increase in demand for health and social care services across the prison estate in recent years, partly due to our ageing population. Many of our establishments are full beyond their design capacity. This increasingly restricts our staff's ability to do the quality work that supports people's personal development, rehabilitation, and chances of a successful reintegration into the community upon liberation, which is key to reducing the risk of reoffending. Scottish Conservative Shadow Justice Secretary Russell Findlay said, "Any announcement to release prisoners early will come as no surprise, given the many serious warnings from prison bosses. The SNP Justice Secretary must explain the exact terms of any such plan, but must also take responsibility for her government's failure to build desperately needed new prisons in Glasgow and the Highlands." A Scottish Government spokesperson said, "The Justice Secretary has updated Parliament twice in the last 6 months on the prison population, which is too high and rising. The needs of the population are also increasingly complex, which continues to put significant pressure on the entire prison system, and the Justice Secretary has made it clear that doing nothing is not an option. Scotland is facing the same challenges as England, Wales and Northern Ireland, and, like them, we are taking a number of actions to address the issues, including making the best use of the current prison estate. The Justice Secretary will update Parliament on the prison population." That exclusive article was written by Andrew Learmonth.
This article is from the Herald on Thursday the 16th of May 2024. It is in the Voices section and the headline is "Don't You Just Hate Dirty Dog Owners?" and the report is by Neil Mackay. Dogs seem a perfectly nice bunch of creatures. It's their human owners I can't stand. At the risk of becoming a figure of national contempt, what's new, I hear cynics cry. There's a certain breed of dog owner whose selfish stupidity brings out my inner extremist. I'm probably more likely to get cancelled for slagging off dog owners than demanding a nationwide baby ban. I know this is my personal cross to bear. Most folk own dogs, so I'm screaming into the wind like Lear upon the heath. It's this time of year which flips my switch. Sunny days bring out the type who think humans should be subservient to their animals. Walk through your local park and you'll find them. The cult of the very long dog leads. You'll be strolling under the trees, and there they are, a cluster of goonish dog walkers standing on opposite sides of the pavement, grinning gormlessly at each other. Their 6-foot-long dog leads turning the road into one of those scenes from Mission Impossible, where Tom Cruise abseils from the ceiling and then has to tiptoe his way like an acrobat through laser beams which trigger deadly alarms. How am I, or that small child riding a bike, or that nice couple with their pram, or that old lady meant to walk along a road when these drongos have turned the place into a spider web of interlocking dog leads? My eyeballs sweat in fury. And yes, I know there's many more troubling issues in the world, but I live inside my brain, and my brain doesn't like self-centred dunderwhelps. Sometimes those in the cult of the incredibly long lead will walk towards you, bold as brass, them on one side of the road, their dog on the other, and expect you to move out of the way for their lead. It's tantamount to an act of war. I simply stand there, staring at these ill-reared brats until they move either the lead or themselves. I'd wait until the crack of doom before I'd budge before these bumptious park-killing cretins. Evidently, you may say. Well, Nearly, old boy, can't you hop off the path and onto the grass on your daily peregrinations through the municipal parks of Glasgow? And I'd say, yes, of course I could, if dog owners hadn't allowed their animals to turn the green brown. Grass seems to some like one big pretty dog toilet. Now, clearly, others are more considerate. They watch their dog hobbling around freakishly at its toilette, then hang the results in lovely little blue bags from a bush. How wonderful! Here was I, looking for a bloom of rhododendron, yet I receive a placky bag of dog curls instead. Call me obsessed, but I've been keeping a newspaper clippings file marked Dog Idiots. I've got articles in there about people buying dog translator apps. Let me sell you some magic beans. There's a story about barkitecture, the art of designing homes around dogs. I'd actually jail these people. I don't know for what, but I'm sure we can invent a crime. A piece about puppy yoga simply broke me. I writhed on the floor in silent rage, praying for a pandemic which specifically targets people who take their dogs to new age therapy. These are the same half-wits who dress their dogs in day-glow jumpsuits. Pity me. If I see another dog in a baby grow, I'll abduct the animal for its own safety. How can you say you love a creature, then make a total sideshow spectacle out of it for your own stupid entertainment? Look, I've even seen people push dogs around in prams. Jail, right? Spare me these dumbbells and their dog babies. The worst type is what I call the metaphysical dog idiot, the ones who've somehow decided dogs are more important than humans. You hear these nihilistic, droning old bores everywhere. Dogs are so much nicer than people. Shut up, idiot. One day, you'll probably be lying dead on your living room floor all alone, because clearly no other human is going to like you or care about you if this is the way you carry on. And your beloved dog will be eating your face off as you aren't able to open their can of beefy chunks anymore. How nice will your furry friend be then? Here's a good tip for social media. If you see someone with a dog avatar as their profile picture, block them. The dog avatar people are among the most horrible, nasty, cruel monsters on the face of the planet. Watch for a Twitter pile-on, and it will be the dog avatars leading the attack. I haven't even touched on the chimps who stare glacially while their dog barks at old people or children without lifting a damn lazy, entitled finger, or the wannabe gangsters stoating about with monster dogs on the end of leashes. If you want to look like a gangster, let's treat you like one. Anyone with a devil dog should be subjected to stop and search measures by police every 10 minutes for the remainder of their life. Clearly, this issue taxes my liberalism, and I'd soon fill the country's jails with dog owners on a series of trumped-up charges. Another good reason why I never entered politics. However, there's a serious side to this. We call ourselves a nation of dog lovers, but we often treat them abysmally. We buy dogs bred specifically for deformity, with squished faces and bandy legs. They suffer their entire lives and die early. We bought dogs in their thousands during COVID, then when it ended, abandoned them. Dog lovers, wise up. We don't just need dog licenses, we need mandatory training for humans before they can own a dog. I don't own a dog. My family had dogs when I was little. They were lovely creatures, but I don't have the lifestyle to look after a dog. I struggle to keep my goldfish alive. Would I like a dog? Yes, when I retire. I reiterate, it's not dogs I detest, it's their owners. If I get a dog, I'd definitely take some lessons on how to look after it. And I'd buy a short lead. That report was by Neil Mackay.
The Herald, Friday the 17th of May, from the news section. First Minister vows to go all out to build Scotland's economy. First Minister John Swinney said he would go all out to encourage investment in Scotland as he sets out his vision for the economy. Speaking ahead of a speech in Glasgow on Friday, Mr Swinney described his government as a firmly pro-business administration that would work in partnership with business and trade unions to boost economic growth. He said this approach, coupled with resources such as renewable energy, were grounds for optimism, but added that it was necessary for Scotland to work even harder on the economy with the powers it had to offset the effects of Brexit. The First Minister said, "My goal is to help people live happier and healthier lives with higher living standards and to help businesses boost profitability." The evidence shows that independent countries that are comparable to Scotland are wealthier and fairer than the UK. Scotland has the talents and resources to match that performance with independence, but in the here and now and in the face of Brexit, we must work even harder to help Scotland's economy with the powers we have. I will go all out to encourage investment in Scotland, and I will ensure people know my government is a firmly pro-business administration. A partnership with trade unions and business will be at the core of my approach, and through that approach and given our resources, not least incredible renewable energy, we should look to the future with hope and optimism. That was an article by Josh Carmichael.
The Herald on the 17th of May and the Voices section. UK economy claims from Rishi Sunak and Jeremy Hunt bizarre by Ian McConnell. News last Friday of the UK's exit from recession in the first quarter prompted an utterly bizarre but not all surprising reaction from the Chancellor and Prime Minister. Jeremy Hunt declared the data from the Office of National Statistics, which showed 0.6% quarter-on-quarter growth in gross domestic product in the opening 3 months of this year, are proof that the economy is returning to full health for the first time since the pandemic. If this is full health or anywhere near it, we really should worry. Rishi Sunak, for his part, declared on social media platform X last Friday, the economy has turned a corner. Today's news proves that. We know things are still tough for many people, but the plan is working and we must stick to it. This was accompanied by a glitzy graphic video declaring the economy is growing, with all the letters in capitals. Eventually the letters in economy became gradually taller, glowing left to right. If this is a plane working, we should also be deeply concerned. And Mr. Sunak did not stop there. We also had an arty video of the Prime Minister on X, including previous clips in which he said, "Grow the economy." This was accompanied by the message, "GDP is up." That is good news for everyone. Just in case anyone missed it first time, this post also declared that we know things are still tough for many people, but our plan for the economy is working and we must stick to it. Okay, so he mixed it up a tiny bit by saying our plan for the economy, rather than just the plan, but it was essentially just a repetition. It always seems with the ruling Tories that they believe that just saying things over and over again will make them true, or perhaps hope is just that people will be convinced something is real if they hear it often enough. Thankfully, there are plenty of economists around to provide an objective view of what is going on with the UK economy. That said, ordinary households the length and breadth of the UK would surely not need anyone to confirm to them that the economy is not returning to full health, as Mr. Hunt claims. Those households have been laid low by the cost of living crisis. They've also been hammered by the impact of the Conservatives' hard Brexit on the economy and living standards, and will continue to be weighed down by this, whether they realise this or want to acknowledge it or not. Suren Thiru, economics director at the Institute of Chartered Accountants in England and Wales, last Friday called the UK's exit from recession a hollow victory and observed the big picture remains one of an economy struggling with stagnation. He declared the economy could struggle to kick on further in the second quarter as the boost to people's incomes from weaker inflation is partly curtailed by the renewed caution to spend and invest amid higher unemployment and ongoing political uncertainty. The National Institute of Economic and Social Research think tank described the move of gross domestic product into the positive territory of the first quarter as encouraging, but observed the UK economy is largely flat-lined following the initial stages of post-pandemic recovery. To escape the low-growth trend into a new and sustained era of high output, growth requires structural changes and public investment. This does not really sound like full health, does it, Mr. Hunt? And the NIESR described a pre-election gloom in his recent UK Economic Outlook report. The 0.6% rise in UK GDP in the first quarter reported last Friday by the ONS was greater than the 0.4% increase forecast by economists polled by Reuters. It followed a 0.3% decline in GDP in the final 3 months of 2023. GDP fell by 0.1% in the third quarter of last year. GDP per head, following seven consecutive quarters without growth, finally showed an increase in the first quarter of 0.4%. However, crucially, it was 0.7% lower than in the same quarter a year earlier. Mr. Hunt showed a smidgen of self-awareness by acknowledging it has been a difficult few years. Perhaps we should be grateful for that, given the Tories' incredibly bizarre view on all things economic. The Chancellor told BBC's Radio 4's Today programme, for families who have been having a really tough time, I think they see that the very difficult decisions that we've taken in order to get the economy back on its feet after the pandemic, after the energy shock, are beginning to pay off, and we need to see them through. There is nothing like not taking responsibility for the grim situation in the UK. Shadow Chancellor Rachel Reeves has some baffling views these days on Brexit, but her observation last week that after 14 years of economic chaos under the Tories, working people are still worse off was bang on the money. The austerity programme, kicked off by the Conservatives way back in 2010, when Mr. Hunt was part of the David Cameron and George Osborne administration, has had a crushing effect on the UK economy and on millions of households. And the Conservatives delivered a hard Brexit, which saw the country lose the huge benefits of free movement of people between the UK and European Economic Area, exacerbating skills and labour shortages greatly. This folly also ended frictionless trade between the UK and its largest trading partner. What is more, to go back to the words of Mr. Hunt, there has never been the sense that decisions were difficult for the ruling Conservatives. Rather, they were entirely in keeping with the current vintage of Tories' dismal ideology. The decisions were undoubtedly difficult to fathom, and they have certainly created difficulties for households. However, in short, they were in essence utterly foolish and entirely unnecessary decisions. The Tories, however, remain determined to point the finger at everything other than themselves when it comes to the UK economy's woes. They will wax lyrical about the coronavirus pandemic's effect and talk about the impact of Russia's invasion on Ukraine, but they remain entirely unwilling or unable to take responsibility for their grave economic policy errors. This is no surprise at all, but their story is looking increasingly ridiculous, and that is saying something. And that was by Ian McConnell.
From the Herald Scotland, Sunday the 19th of May, from the news section. Celtic fans' street celebrations damage branded unacceptable. Report by Jodie Harrison. 4 police officers were injured in disorder that broke out at an unofficial street party to celebrate Celtic winning the Scottish Premier League title. Police Scotland said that 19 arrests were made on Saturday as 25,000 fans thronged an area of the city centre to drink and sing. Officers said that they had taken robust action to quell any antisocial behaviour, including the setting off of pyrotechnic devices and vandalism. The 4 injured officers required medical treatment. Police have said they will work to find those responsible. Damage caused by the fans was branded unacceptable by city chiefs after bus stops and traffic lights at Glasgow Cross were smashed by unruly fans. Thousands poured into the Glasgow's merchant city yesterday after Celtic were presented with the league trophy following their 3-2 win over St Mirren. A Glasgow City Council spokesman said as crowds dispersed in the early hours of Sunday morning, a substantial amount of litter, debris and broken glass was left in the area surrounding Glasgow Cross. An overnight clean-up operation was put in place to clear the debris, with pavement strewn with empty boxes, bottles and cans. Police had earlier closed off roads in the area as part of proportionate response to the large gathering. The council spokesman said, "After an exceptional clean-up effort by our teams overnight, the area is now clear, including the course for the Cancer Research UK Race for Life, which is taking place this morning. There has been damage to infrastructure such as bus stops and traffic signals, but we do not yet know the full extent of what repairs will be necessary. This kind of damage, disruption and antisocial behaviour remains unacceptable. It should be possible to celebrate and show a basic level of consideration for others in the city at the same time." The trophy was presented to the team at Celtic Park after the victory over St Mirren, bringing the curtain down in the Footballing League season. A cup final with rivals Rangers is still to come. Last year, 10 people were arrested while 3 were seriously assaulted at a similar gathering, with a 31-year-old man being taken to hospital in serious condition. The amount of refuse left behind led to calls for the club to foot the bill or to organise its own celebrations away from public areas. Superintendent John Mingus said, "I would like to thank our partner agencies and the wider public for their support. Unfortunately, we experienced some disorder, including the use of pyrotechnics and alcohol-related offences. We took robust action to prevent these escalating. Violence and assaults on members of the public or police officers is completely unacceptable, and we continue to work to identify those responsible." An article was written by Jodie Harrison. From the Herald Scotland, Sunday the 19th of May, from the news section. Huge Scotland whooping cough outbreak will get worse. Article by health correspondent Helen McArdle. The massive whooping cough outbreak sweeping Scotland is likely to get worse over the coming months, an expert has warned. Dr Sam Gehebre-Hewitt, head of immunisation and vaccination at Public Health Scotland, said infections would probably not peak until autumn. It comes after PHS revealed that a total of 2,232 laboratory-confirmed cases of pertussis, better known as whooping cough, had been detected in Scotland up to May 13th. That compares to just 73 in the whole of 2023 and far exceeds the number reported in the last significant outbreak in 2012 and 2013, when 3,084 cases were detected over a 2-year period. In England, 5 young infants, all under 3 months old, died as a result of whooping cough between January and March this year. There have been no deaths to date in Scotland, but expectant mothers have been urged to come forward for vaccination if they have not already had the jag during pregnancy. Speaking to the BBC Sunday show about the outbreak, Dr. Gehebra Hewitt said, "It is likely to get worse. The cycles we have seen over the last 10 years is usually that it starts in the first quarter of the calendar year, January, February, March. It goes higher and higher and doesn't peak until the third quarter, so I think it is a long way to go as far as we understand from the previous years. I think it's going to increase rather than decrease at this stage. Women are usually eligible for vaccination at between 16 and 32 weeks gestation, but Dr. Gehebra Hewitt suggested that it was not too late to come forward even if 32 weeks had passed. The 4-in-1 inoculation during pregnancy enables mothers to pass antibodies onto their developing baby in the womb so that they have protection against pertussis and other infectious diseases for the first few months after birth until they are old enough for vaccination. Babies are offered the pertussis vaccine at 8, 12 and 16 weeks, with a booster from 3 years and 4 months old. Falling vaccination uptake among mothers and infants, coupled with a decline in exposure due to social distancing during the pandemic, have been blamed for the scale of the current outbreak. Figures for England show that just 59.3% of pregnant women were vaccinated against whooping cough between October and December last year, down by almost 16% compared to 2016-17. In London, coverage was just 36.8%. It is unclear what uptake in pregnancy has been in Scotland, as the figures are held by individual health boards rather than collated centrally by PHS, as statistics on childhood immunisations are. On Thursday, First Minister John Swinney was pressed in Parliament for figures showing the proportion of pregnant women who are taking up the vaccine in Scotland. He promised to seek specific information for the vaccination programme, but added, "Generally, the uptake of vaccines is moving in the right direction, which we would want to see." Although still high, uptake of the pertussis jag for babies in Scotland has been falling. Coverage among 1-year-olds went from 98% in December 2014 to just under 95% by September 2023. Among the mainland NHS boards, coverage was lowest in the Scottish Borders at 91.5% and 91.8% in the Highland region. Whooping cough is caused by the bacteria Bordetella pertussis. Before the pertussis vaccine was added to the routine schedule of childhood vaccinations in Britain in the 1950s, there were around 150,000 known cases per year and more than 300 deaths. Unvaccinated babies under 1 are still most at risk. Symptoms resemble the common cold in the early stages, such as a runny nose, and progress to prolonged bouts of coughing, sometimes characterised by a whoop sound and vomiting. A resurgence in whooping cough infections in recent decades has been partly attributed to a change in the type of vaccine used. The first generation of vaccines used from the 1950s to the 1970s was whole cell, meaning that it was formulated using an inactivated form of the pertussis bacteria. This produced a strong and durable protective immunity, but by the early 1970s the vaccine was associated in some cases with neurological complications. It was subsequently replaced by acellular vaccines, which still retain good protection against serious disease, but immunity against infection wanes much more quickly. Dr. Gehebra Hewitt said this had resulted in the cyclical pattern of whooping cough outbreaks seen over the past 10 to 20 years. He said, "Whooping cough comes and goes every 3 to 4 years, and particularly I think this is related to the vaccine effectiveness in terms of how long the protection lasts. We understand now that the vaccine protection lasts around 7 to 10 years, so children are vaccinated at the age of 2, 3, 4 months, and the last of these are given at the age of 3 to 4 years. So, After 7 years, the vaccine protection is waning. Effectiveness is waning in terms of infections, but effectiveness remains really high in terms of serious infection and hospital admissions and mortality. And the article was by health correspondent Helen McCardle. From the Herald, Sunday the 19th of May, from the politics section, Minister sworn at by Cole Hamilton responds to revelations, by political correspondent Kathleen Nutt. An SNP minister who was sworn at by Alex Cole Hamilton has said she is glad he is receiving counselling. Marie Todd, who is Minister for Social Care, Mental Wellbeing and Sport, cited an interview in the Herald on Sunday Today with the Scottish Liberal Democratic leader as she responded to revelations in the article. He had been receiving therapy for more than 2 years, paid for by his party, to help address mental health issues he was dealing with. Mr. Cole Hamilton told interviewer Andrew Learmonth he needed to see a clinician after suffering physical symptoms from the strain of this job. And he added he no longer looks at the responses to his posts on social media. I tell my mother not to either, he said. I've largely got a fire and forget policy on Twitter these days, but it has taken its toll on my mental health. I benefited from a counsellor who gives me help with resilience and coaching. I have had physical symptoms that I've had to get checked out because of the strain of this job. Mr. Cole Hamilton was caught on camera mouthing swear words at Ms. Todd in February 2021 as she appeared before a parliamentary committee. He later apologised. Writing on X/Twitter, Ms. Todd said today, I'm actually glad he's seeking help. I think the way he behaved towards me was disturbing. Disappointing the onslaught of online abuse he unleashed on me wasn't covered though. Speaking to BBC Scotland today, Mr. Cole Hamilton said Scotland's political discourse must be improved to stop politicians facing abuse. The revelation that the Scottish Lib Dem leader was receiving clinical help came as the Scottish Parliament released the findings of a pilot programme which showed 461 complaints made to police over abuse levelled at just 38 MSPs. Speaking to the BBC's Sunday show before his address to the conference, Mr. Cole Hamilton said, I think we need to raise the standard of public debate. The incident involving Ms. Todd happened during a virtual meeting of the Equalities and Human Rights Committee in February 2021. Ms. Todd tweeted him after the hearing, saying, No, Alex, you do not get away with that. It was an appalling way to behave towards a female colleague. You do not get to blame me for your bad behaviour. As a row over his language broke out, Mr. Cole Hamilton, who at the time was his party spokesman for health, tweeted that he had lost his temper over the Scottish Government backsliding on children's rights once again. He accepted that he had muttered something under his breath that he shouldn't have, and apologised to the minister. In the article was by political correspondent Kathleen Nutt, and it was read by me, Ian McKenna.
The Herald on the 21st of May and the news section. Majority of Scots have no religion, census data shows, by Gabriel Mackay. Majority of people in Scotland now say they have no religion for the first time. The latest data from the 2022 census to be released found that 51.1% of people had no religion, up from 36.7% in 2011. The question is voluntary and was first introduced in 2001, when just 27.5% said they had no religious beliefs. The largest decrease has been in the followers of the Church of Scotland, with 42.4% identifying as a follower in 2002. That has dropped to 20.4%, a fall of 610,100 people since 2011 and over 1 million since 2001. The Church of Scotland remains the largest group for those who identified as religious. The next largest religious groups were Roman Catholic, 13.3%, other Christian, 5.1%, and Muslim, 2.2%. There was a slight increase in followers of Islam between 2011 and 2022 from 1.45% to 2.2%, with Hindu rising from 0.31% to 0.55% and Sikh from 0.17% to 0.2%. The number of respondents identifying as being of the Jewish faith remained steady at 0.11%, while 0.35% said they were pagan. Of the people who have completed the census, 6.16% opted not to answer the question. Males, 53.8%, were more likely to have no religion than females, 48.6%. This was also true in 2011 and 2001. All age groups saw an increase in people who said they were of no religion, and in the 65-plus age group, the number with no religion has more than doubled since 2011, an increase of 186,700 people, from 14.1% to 28.6%. No religion was the most common response in every council area in Scotland except in Eileen Sarr and Inverclyde, where Church of Scotland 35.3% and Roman Catholic 33.4% were the most common responses respectively. In Eileen Sarr, the percentage of people with no religion increased from 11.4% in 2001 to 29.9% in 2022. The latest release data also deals with ethnic background. The percentage of people in Scotland with a minority ethnic background increased from 8.2% in 2011 to 12.9% in 2022. In the white category, 87.1% of people identified as either Scottish or other British. Groups contained in that category, such as Irish, Polish, Gypsy, Traveller, Roma, and Showman/Showwoman, were defined as a minority ethnic group. There was an increase of 29,500 people in the Polish category, 1.67% of the population, and the other white category saw an increase of 56,600 people, around 75% of whom identified as European. The percentage of people born outside the UK increased from 7.0% to 10.2% between 2011 and 2022, but there was also an increase in those who said they speak, read and write English well or very well, from 93.8% to 94.2%. Scotland's population grew by 144,400, 2.7%, largely thanks to migration. The number of people living in Scotland who were born in the country decreased by 90,400, but was offset by increases in the number who were born in the rest of the UK, up 49,200, and born overseas, up 185,600. There were more people in the older age groups in 2022 than ever recorded, with more than 1 million over 65s. Without migration, there would have been fewer people in younger age groups. In 2022, 17.8% of Scotland's population aged between 20 and 39 were born outside the UK, but the overall percentage of people born outside the UK is still relatively small, 10.2%. The data also showed what may be an increasing polarisation on the constitutional question. The percentage of people who said Scottish was their only national identity increased by since the previous census, from 62.4% to 65.5%. The percentage who said their only national identity was British also increased from 8.4% to 13.9%. The percentage who said they felt Scottish and British decreased from 18.3% to 8.2%. A higher percentage of females, 66.3%, said their only national identity was Scottish compared to males, 64.6%. The census found that 2.5% of people aged 3 and over had some skills in Gaelic in 2022. This is an increase of 43,100 people since 2011, when 1.7% had some skills in Gaelic. In 2001, 1.9% had some Gaelic skills, similar to 2011. In Eileen Sarr, the majority had some Gaelic skills, 57.2%. This was far higher than the next highest council areas, Highland 8.1% and Argyll and Bute 6.2%. In all other council areas, less than 3% of people aged 3 and over had some Gaelic skills. And that was by Gabriel Mackay.
This is from the Herald Scotland of Tuesday the 21st of May 2024 from the Voices section. new SNP government insists Scotland is a renewables powerhouse. This article is by Mark Williamson. New Energy Minister Mhairi McCallan has rehashed old boasts about Scotland's renewables prowess, only to find a sector cheerleader highlighting uncertainty about the supposed green jobs boom. Ms McCallan told business leaders in Glasgow that Scotland's status as a world leader had been confirmed by moves by international investors in recent days to support development in areas such as green hydrogen and offshore infrastructure development. Speaking at the All Energy Conference, Ms McCallan noted these included the groundbreaking ceremony at Sumitomo's planned cable plant at Nig, which she found time to attend, while facing the challenges associated with helping new First Minister John Swinney find his feet. "What a week," crowed Miss McCallan, who claimed accomplishments in recent years and this week alone served to powerfully demonstrate what I believe is the case that Scotland is fast becoming a renewables powerhouse. She added, "I think it's worth noting that progress has been made while pursuing a just transition for our communities and for our workforce." By way of evidence to support her claim, Ms McCallan said a community and renewable energy scheme launched by the Scottish Government has been a vital part of grounding this work in Scotland's communities by providing over £65 million of funding for 900 projects. She appeared to be referring to spending under the £500 million Just Transition initiative, launched by former First Minister Nicola Sturgeon in 2021 after striking the Bute House power sharing agreement with the Scottish Greens, which collapsed in April. Ms McCallan did not provide any examples to demonstrate the value of the project she referred to, but insisted Scotland is already on the way when it comes to supporting green jobs. The comments were made weeks after former First Minister Humza Yousaf claimed full-time employment in renewables increased from 27,000 to 42,000 over the last year. The trouble was that the numbers were based on an analysis of Office for National Statistics figures relating to 2021, which Strathclyde University's Fraser of Allender Institute said came with a moderately large margin of error and should not be over-interpreted. Ms McCallan's claim about jobs was undermined not long after she sat down. Speaking in the following conference session, Scottish Renewables Chief Executive Claire Mack said the country faced a real issue about how it gathered statistics around the impact of the industry. Lamenting the unfortunate fact that Scotland's statistical system is not doing what it needed, Ms Mack noted this made it hard to track the effectiveness of just transition spending. In March, a report by MSPs said clarity was needed about the future sustainability of the Just Transition Fund after the budget allocation for 2024-25 was cut to 12 million from 50 million the preceding year. Members of the Economy and Fair Work Committee noted then the delays in bringing forward Scottish Government strategies, such as the Energy Strategy and Just Transition Plan, Regional Just Transition Plans, and the Climate Change Update, are frustrating. The criticism highlights the fact that for all the talk about the effectiveness of its support for renewables, the Scottish Government has been making energy policy on the hoof, with a focus on winning the Green vote rather than delivering on related pledges. A draft energy strategy was published in draft form in January last year, following long delays. It recommended a presumption against new exploration in the North Sea, despite Scotland's reliance on oil and gas and the crucial importance of the industry to the economy. Ms McCallan told the All Energy Conference, "Our energy strategy and just transition plan to be published this summer will set out our vision for a future energy system that delivers affordable, secure, clean energy and delivers economic benefits to every part of Scotland." She said the Scottish Government will also publish a green industrial strategy which will set out with absolute clarity of expression the investable propositions in Scotland's energy sector. It will be clear and unambiguous statement of intent, providing investors with one window with which to consider Scotland and provide the clarity that they will require. But just 2 days later, Ms McCallan's boss admitted Scotland needed ministers to focus on doing rather than on dreaming up strategies. Mr Swinney told business leaders in Glasgow, "I will demand from my government more concrete actions and fewer strategy documents." Scotland has paid a high price for the Scottish Government's failure to clear important obstacles that stand in the way of major renewables investment. For example, developers face nightmarish delays dealing with a planning system that appears to lack the resources to deal with applications concerning wind farms and the like. The UK's official offshore wind champion, Tim Pick, noted that SSE had been unable to apply for support for the giant Berwick Bank wind farm in the latest funding round because it could not get the scheme through the planning process in time. Perth-based SSE submitted a planning application for Berwick Bank in 2022. SSE's website states, "If approved for delivery, Berwick Bank could increase Scotland's overall renewable energy capacity by nearly 30%. Ms McCallan, 31, told conference goers, "We will shortly set out steps to improve resources for the planning system, providing greater certainty and greater incentives for investors in Scotland. I want planning and consenting to be done correctly so it can be a means of protecting our environment and a key enabler of the energy transition and growing our economy." Ms McCallan would have been at secondary school when the SNP took power at Holyrood in 2007, when former First Minister Alex Salmond formed a minority government. SNP ministers have had plenty of time to sort out the planning system. While renewables executives at All Energy noted the challenges they faced dealing with the acronym soup of sector support bodies, Ms McCallan hailed the creation of another one in the form of the Scottish Offshore Wind Ports Alliance, the SOWPA. Noting the UK government controls key levers for the realisation of net zero across the country, she said it must use them to act at pace to support Scotland's goals. The Scottish Offshore Wind Ports Alliance members include Port of Cromarty Firth, which is in line to benefit from a UK government contribution to the acronym jumble. The port has made it through a key stage in the application process for the £160 million floating offshore wind manufacturing investment scheme, or FLOMIS, which was unveiled by the UK government in March last year. 7 months later, Humza Yousaf launched a £500 million offshore wind supply chain fund. That article was by Mark Williamson.
The Herald on the 21st of May and the Arts and Ents section. Education Awards ceremony is set to celebrate class acts by Agnes Stevenson. Don't miss out on Scotland's education sector's most highly anticipated event later this month. There's just 1 week to go until the winners are announced of this year's The Herald Higher Education Awards, and there is still some time to book a place at the most prestigious event in the sector's calendar. On Tuesday 28 May at the Radisson Blue in Glasgow, host Fred Macaulay will welcome an impressive lineup of finalists from colleges and universities across the country, each of whom have been nominated from amongst a strong lineup of contenders. It will be an evening of celebration and a chance for those working in Scotland's higher education establishments to recognise the achievements of their peers. Amongst the accolades that will be handed out on the night will be the Outstanding Contribution from a Staff Member Award, where the contenders include Professor Bill Buchanan of Edinburgh Napier University, Julie Cooper of West College, Scotland, and Usha Mani from the University of Dundee. Also on the shortlist are Vicky McCall from the University of Stirling and both Michelle Godson and Rick Waitman from Edinburgh College. The Edinburgh sector doesn't exist in isolation. Instead, it works closely with many other organisations, and one of the most exciting categories will be the Partnership Award, which will be presented for the most impressive collaboration between academia, businesses and the third sector. Among those on the shortlist are Edinburgh College for its Sports Rehabilitation Degree Programme partnerships with Scottish Rugby Union and NHS Scotland, Glasgow Caledonian University for its Transforming Health at GCU, Collaborating for Wellness Initiative, New College Lanarkshire and Women's Aid, and Glasgow School of Art and Daydream Believers, creators of free online resources for educators. The latter project has also made the finals of the Outstanding Business Engagement in Universities Award, along with Abertay University for its spearheading low-carbon innovation, with Transform Net Zero and Edinburgh Napier University for its Applied Management in Football initiative. From the Supporting Student Wellbeing Award, sponsored by Studiosity, to awards for outstanding contributions from university and college students, a Research Project of the Year category, and an Innovative Use of Technology Award, sponsored by JISC. The awards are designed to recognise all areas of endeavour, including the contribution that educational establishments make to their local communities and efforts being made to widening access to higher education to as many people as possible. Isabel Bristow, Managing Director UK and Europe, studiously said, "I'm incredibly excited for next week's Herald HE Awards. Having seen the quality of all category entries, made some tough decisions on selecting the finalists with my fellow judges, now all there is left to do is to look forward to this truly joyous event, celebrating the wonderful work across the Scottish HE sector. At Studiosity, our mission is to improve life chances for students everywhere, and so presenting the award to Supporting Student Wellbeing finalists is an extra special privilege and honour." On the evening, the winner will be announced of the Lifetime Achievement Award, and one organisation will walk away with the prestigious Higher Education Institution of the Year title. There will also be an Enhancing Student Learning Award, sponsored by QAA, where the finalist includes Abertay University for a project focusing on co-creating student success through credit-bearing micro-credential. Edinburgh College for its creative and critical thinking qualifications, Robert Gordon University for the future of teaching, learning and assessment, and University of Glasgow for its Enhanced Learning for All student learning development programme. Catherine O'Lone, QAA Director for Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland, said, "We're looking forward to celebrating with the winners on 28 May. The awards are an excellent opportunity to recognise and celebrate the talent that exists in our colleges and universities and the national commitment to continuously improve the student learning experience in Scotland." Full details of all the awards and information on how to get tickets for the event are available from newsquestscotlandevents.com/events HEAWARDS. And that was by Agnes Stevenson.
That concludes this week's edition of the Herald Scotland podcast. Please remember to subscribe to our channels, rate and review, and to tell your friends about our service.